Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone SE 2, the iPhone SE second generation, and see how this particular phone holds up in the middle part of 2024. Now, the big thing to keep in mind with this particular phone is that it's still supported with software. There's still a lot of good stuff going on with this phone. It's not necessarily perfect, but I still think there's a lot of good stuff to love about this particular device, and we'll talk about that throughout this whole entire video. The big thing to keep in mind, though, is that this phone, although it's still not, being sold by Apple brand new, you can still buy them all over the place, but there's probably better phones to go and buy. And we'll talk about that throughout this whole entire video. If you want to pick up some phones I would recommend buying, though, links are down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside, nothing has really changed with this particular device that we haven't already seen before. So on the front side, you're getting a 4.7-inch Retina IPS panel, and this particular thing still looks pretty good for the most part. So it looks good, it looks great. I don't really have too many complaints about this thing for the most part here. With the panel itself, it just doesn't get as bright, but it's an IPS panel, it's not an OLED panel, and there's a lot of bezel around it. So although the panel is fine, it's everything around the panel that makes this phone look so, outdated. And even the panel itself, it's like an IPS, it's not an OLED. So this in and of itself is another somewhat of a big issue, I would say, for this type of device. It's just that it looks super outdated. You still have Touch ID 2 on the front, which could be good for some people. Now on top of that, you're getting a lightning port at the bottom, which looks and feels great. I love lightning, but USB-C is better. No headphone jack or anything like that. On the sides, this is a very small phone. So compared to a lot of phones nowadays, this thing looks, fairly small compared to what you're getting. So this is probably one big thing to kind of keep in mind with this particular device too. On the back side, you're getting the standard glass back. So there's nothing super crazy going on here. It's that standard glass back that you normally pretty much get from really any other device. So I think this in and of itself is another cool thing going on with this particular phone, that it's not like the most expensive phone of all time, and you're still getting a pretty good feeling, build quality on this thing. Single camera setup on the backside as well, which is really cool. And beyond that, there's not really anything else going on with this phone that's like super crazy or super outdated. I think this phone is kind of like what you see is what you get kind of a situation. And I think that's a super cool thing. Like I said before, although it's not perfect, the exterior of this phone still looks pretty much what you'd expect. The software of this phone is also still decent. It just got iOS 18, and I just installed iOS 18 on this particular phone too. And I will tell you from that particular side, this phone is actually holding up quite well from an iOS 18 perspective. I think a majority of my phones that I've installed iOS 18 on have done a really good job, and I think this in and of itself is a very crazy thing. That a phone like this is still performing pretty decently at this level is very, very exciting, and it makes me so excited about this. Now keep in mind that this could mean that in the future there could be some issues, there could be some problems or something like that. But as of right now, iOS 18 has been pretty decent, and it does make me kind of excited about the future of this version of software on this particular device. So in and of itself, from that perspective, again, that kind of covers it up there. Now on top of that, with something like the iPhone SE 2, the performance of this phone really isn't that great anymore. You're getting that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of this thing, which is good, but it's not perfect. And you're getting 3 gigabytes of RAM inside of this phone as well. So I will tell you, from a performance perspective, this phone isn't like the most perfect phone of all time. There's definitely going to be issues and problems that you may be running into with this particular phone. But I will probably tell you, when you're going to go through and use this phone, it's not terrible. And like I said before, if I'm going to go through and buy a phone, I think, Apple did a decent job with this device from a performance perspective, giving it the same chipset, basically as like the flagship of that time. It just so happens that the body is kind of outdated. So I think so far, for the iPhone SE 2 in the middle part of 2024, it's an outdated looking phone that still has a pretty good chipset inside. So if I'm going to go through and buy a device, this thing is probably not going to be the one I'd recommend a majority of people. But if you are in an extreme budget and you need like a sub $100 phone, I guess this thing isn't like a terrible option. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.